Okay, people, so, yeah, Stop Time. Yeah, this is the brand new film from Paul Schwartz. He wrote, directed, and produced. Don't really have any information on the rest of the crew, unfortunately. But we can get to the cast, right? So, Peter is played by Nelson Avidon. His deceased wife, Marin, is played by Kelly Dedman. His daughter, Elise, is played by Kylie Victoria Edwards. There is then Carla, right, played by Judy Jerome, who is... Yeah, no, she's married to Mason, who's played by Eddie Kehler. And Carla's friend, Adrianna, is played by Tara Westwood, who was actually in Queen of Knives, right? Gene Pope's film that we covered, oh man, probably a couple of years ago, right? Adriana's daughter Emma is played by Christina Toff. No, sorry, Maya is Adriana's daughter, right? She's played by Catherine Quirico. Yes, Emma is played by Christina Toff. I think she's the other dancer. We've got Adriana's grandma, played by Patty McCormack, right? There's Anna, played by Daria Karic. Dr. Friedman, played by David Gideon. And who else do we have? There is the woman in the park, played by Elizabeth Narisso. I think that's how you pronounce that. Right? So, the gist of the film, right? So, two artists with personal sorrows, a photographer and a lighting designer, are steered towards each other by friends. Their paths converge at the photographer's gallery opening in New York City, leading to unforeseen outcomes. Unforeseen, maybe foreseen, right? Now, this, like, what's really, I think, is, stop time, right? And it is mentioned in the film because, right, so Peter is a photographer, and, photographers capture moments, right? It's still storytelling. You know what I mean? You're capturing that memory, that moment in time, that echo. And so this film, Stop Time, it's an interesting one because we have Peter, who is kind of not necessarily like frozen in a way, right? But kind of more walking in slow motion because he's still living life, right? Like, he went to his daughter's birthday party, but everything is still anchored to the memories of his deceased wife, And then we have Adrianna, who, she's been living her life, right? She's been very successful in her career. And it's like she is pulled back to a time, So we have someone that is kind of trapped within the sphere of a time frame, and someone else who has kind of moved past it and now is suddenly drawn back to it. So it's that interesting counterbalance, which is very compelling, because we're seeing the way both are interacting with the world and those around. Like, they both have daughters, and we see those relationships with those daughters. Okay, right, bear with me, people. Friggin' spam, people. Freaking spam. Like, you put your shit on the do not disturb, and still, I don't know how that gets through, right? Yeah, no, I think I was saying about, you know what I mean? We have, they both got daughters, and so we're seeing how they both interact with the daughters. It's very different, these relationships, One is, it's very connected, and the other is disjointed, right? It is, it used to be more. Like, you can tell it used to be more, through the things that are said. It used to be more, but of late, it is kind of more fragmented, right? And so all of these different things, these polar opposites we're watching. Now, we have all of this, but then we also have this use of color and light, which, like, for the majority, the film is in black and white, but then we do get these little shots of color, and I think that's it's a nice touch, and it kind of really emphasizes certain points, so I think visually the film, works very well on those different levels, right? And especially when, there is like just this light and shadow and the contrasts and things such as that. I think, for the most part, I think we definitely get into these people's heads, right? I think we're definitely kind of living with what they're going through and everything like that. I think there are some moments that are a little bit on the nose, right? The red balloon at the end, I don't necessarily, doesn't necessarily have to be there. The little skippy jump thing. Also, with Peter and his daughter, and then you get the hot dog stand. Hot dogs, get your hot dogs here. And it's just like, I mean, we know that's what they're doing, but I don't think that was needed. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do think a lot of the interactions were interesting, and I think they do, deal with what's going on well. I did think that maybe what Adrianna says a bit later in the film it feels a little bit forced within the confines of what's going on, right? It feels maybe it's a little bit rushed. It's a little bit, I'm not sure. I wasn't fully buying it, but I understand what what they're doing for the story. But I did think this was an interesting film, And I thought, because, we're looking at different types of grief, different types of loss, different types of coping mechanisms, and everyone, I think, with something like this, because it is dealing with those topics, right? And everyone comes at these things in different ways. So I am definitely sure that there are people that are probably like, yo, I've done the same thing. That's been me. Or, you know what I mean? I've kind of used those things as coping mechanisms. I've jumped back into situations in a similar way. So like, we're even with the, as I said, Adrianna's the things that she says, I'm sure people have done that too. You know what I mean? Like, it might feel a little bit, rushed, much maybe for me, but I'm sure, as I say, I'm sure a lot of people have done that. But it is that, as I say, it's that interesting thing, because we're dealing with those topics, And I think when you have two people coming at this thing from, opposite ends, I think that really does, I think, bring it to life and highlight the situation and, what everyone is going through. So it is there. Like, it is a short film. It's like 75 minutes, I think. And that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes, you do think certain situations may be, like, as I said, with Adrianna and Peter and the conversations and stuff, I think maybe that could have been longer. Great, but in essence, I think the film length isn't a bad thing, right? I don't think the film overstays its welcome. I don't think we necessarily have any flab here, It is very tight in what we're doing and all of those kind of things. So, yeah. I think it's interesting. I think it will definitely bring up things that a lot of people who may be going through similar issues will, there'll be points that they'll be wanting to talk about afterwards, or, maybe you've got friends who are going through that and you'll be like, oh, right. So I think this film, will be helpful in that way, in getting conversations started and stuff like that. But as I say, it's just interesting with the way Paul kind of decided to go about this story, the way he decided to use light, the way he decided to bring his characters together and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, if you want an interesting drama, people, I don't think you'll go too wrong with Stop Time. I think it's just started its festival circuit, as it were. So, yes, people, keep an eye out, right? All the links and stuff, for the website and the socials will be on the webpage for the episode. So, yeah, keep an eye out. Yeah, that was Stop Time.